What's up, Rasmanites? 25 Days of Christmas, Day 20. Today, I wanted to do something a little different for the first time in this countdown. I wanted to challenge myself to try to find a Christmas film I had never seen and review it, and basically take advantage of Netflix because I knew that there was a bunch of Christmas films out there that I had known. So, the one I chose to watch was one called Santa Claus the Movie. And I have only seen this yesterday. It was the only time I've ever seen it, as I mentioned a minute ago. So I apologize if I forget character names or skip over character names because I'm just liable to forget stuff. Because I didn't finish this until 7:30 p.m. last night, and then I couldn't jump straight into filming the review in the same outfit after watching it because I had to eat my late dinner, and then Tribute to the Troops came on. So, yeah. Anyway, this tells the story of Santa and how Santa was actually a real human being that lived somewhere in the far north where there was deep snowstorms, and he was a toy maker, of course. And in the beginning of the film, you see him with his two reindeer. I believe it was Donner and Blitzen was the actual reindeer that he had. And after giving some toys to some other kids, he's going through this bitter snowstorm, and he and his wife pass out in the middle of the storm. And when they wake up, they're they're like on top of a mountain, and they're in this magical place, and of course that's where they meet the elves. And the elves proceed to tell them, mainly through an older elf who I'm assuming was 1,000 or 100 something, hundreds of something years old, that he is the chosen one, and they've always been told of a fellow toy maker who would come to them and deliver all their gifts to all the children in all the world on Christmas Eve. And they explain that the way that this is to be done is that time stands still on Christmas Eve, and that time is a force that travels with you, being Claus, who is then given the name of Santa. So then, fast forward a little bit through time. I'm assuming it's like the 1980s because that's when this film was made. I think it was 1984, or maybe it was 5. I can't remember what year Netflix said on it. I think it was 85. But fast forward in time, and Santa is trying to do things to become more efficient, so he hires an elf named Patch to be his assistant because he's elevated the way they do things. He's created more machinery for them to use, faster assemblage of toys and things of that nature. Well, some things go wrong, his toys break, and Santa feels like he needs to replace them. So Pat, takes this. Santa doesn't like him, so he goes off to Earth, and he meets up with this villainous type of Daddy Warbucks character who owns a toy company, and I forget the character's name, but the actor is John Lithgow from Third Rock from the Sun. And basically he tricks him into making magical things for him to try to run Santa out of business. In the meantime, while this is happening, Santa develops a relationship with a young boy named Joe, who is homeless and without any sort of semblance of a need for Christmas. He's never wrote Santa a letter because he's never wanted to be selfish. He's like, he doesn't need anything. There's more important people in the world despite being homeless. So Santa really draws this kid and feels like this kid, Joe, is the closest thing he's ever going to have to his son. And then Joe develops a friendship with this girl. I want to say Cordy or Cornelia or something like that. Like I said, I apologize. I'm going to forget character names. But she ends up looking after him and giving him food and all this stuff before he meets Santa and during the time that he knows Santa. And then she wakes up while Joe and Santa are in her house. So they develop this real relationship of knowing that Santa is real and he exists. And she ends up being the niece of the toy maker, the evil toy maker who's tricking Patch to try and put Santa out of business. So, in the end, Santa stops Patch and stops exploding magic candy canes, saves Patch's life, and then Cordy, I believe that's her name. Again, I'm sorry if it's not, but then the girl and Joe end up being adopted by Santa and Mrs. Claus and the elves. And that's how the story ends. So, it's a very interesting story. I would definitely not call it one of my favorites of all time, but just the fact that it's so different and it's not anything that you're used to seeing as far as the typical Christmas formula, much like the Santa Claus trilogy with Tim Allen, the way that it's so different in my opinion. For that alone, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. I thought the acting was really good. I thought it was a distinctly 80s movie, which I'm a sucker for that time period in movies. The best movies of all time, in my opinions, were made in the decades of the 30s, 40s, 60s, and 80s. And of course, there were great movies in the 90s as well, but just pure decade all the way through, I think 80s is one of the best decades ever for film. So, yeah, I enjoyed it for that aspect. So, yeah, I recommend this. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I'd highly recommend it, but if you've never seen it, it's worth a watch. So, I don't have any memories to share, like I said, because this is probably the one and only one I'll do this with unless I really run across something that really grabs me within the next 4 days that I will have never seen. But it was just a challenge that I wanted to give myself. So, as always, all company contact info for the official sponsors of this program and channel, Handi Enterprises Inc., is down below in the description box. And this is reality according to the Razman and Razman style. It's not just a catchphrase, but a way of life.